Okay, picture this for a moment. There's a student in Ethiopia, Jonas Dugus. He's 21. And he's overcome just, well, immense hardship. We're talking conflict, communication blackouts, making study almost impossible, pandemic delays, messing with his graduation.
Just getting through high school was a major challenge.
Exactly. But despite all that, he does it. He gets into his dream school, Harvard. He gets his visa, bags are practically packed, family's overjoyed. And then, right when he's about to start this path he fought so hard for, boom, a totally different kind of hurdle.
Yeah, not from his life circumstances, but from Washington, D.C., a government proclamation thousands of miles away.
That image really hits home, doesn't it?
Wow.
It gets right to the heart of what we're diving into today. This really dramatic, fast-moving legal and political clash between the Trump administration and Harvard University.
Specifically over international students trying to enter the U.S.
Right, and the critical part of the real people, like Jonas, caught right in the thick of
Well,
it.
he was hanging in the balance, essentially.
So we're going to pull back the curtain on this. We've looked at recent reporting from the Associated Press, The Guardian, CNN, the BBC. They've all been tracking this as it unfolds, sometimes hour by hour.
It's been moving that fast, bouncing between the White House, the courts, the university.
Our mission here is to get past the breaking news flashes and really unpack what went down, why the administration says it happened, and crucially, what it all means for students like Jonas and another one, Jing, who we'll talk about, and for Harvard itself. Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, what's really striking is how this very specific high-level action, a presidential proclamation, can just instantly throw everything into chaos for individuals just trying to get an education.
Mm-hmm.
So the core of it is this proclamation. The Trump administration issued it, and it specifically banned new foreign students from coming into the U.S. if their main reason was to attend Harvard.
And this wasn't the first move against Harvard, but it was direct from the president this time.
Correct. It followed other actions targeting the university, but this was an executive proclamation.
And you see that immediate impact, like you said, in the student stories the sources picked up on. Jonas, the student from Ethiopia we mentioned, his journey is just incredible.
It really is. Surviving the Tigray conflict, dealing with communication shutdowns just for online learning, finishing high school late because of the pandemic.
And the AP pointed out he was the only student accepted to Harvard this year from his specific high school back in Tigray, a school for gifted kids from poorer backgrounds. He also got into Columbia and Amherst, but, Harvard was the dream.
And imagine getting that acceptance letter. The sources say he was ecstatic, utterly thrilled.
Of course.
But that joy, it turned pretty quickly into months of uncertainty. He did manage to get his visa, which is huge.
Right.
But now with all this legal back and forth, he's worried, genuinely worried it might be too late to switch gears to go to Columbia or Amherst if the Harvard situation doesn't get sorted out fast.
Yeah, that's a terrible spot to be in. And he's not the only one feeling that limbo, right?
Yeah.
The sources also talk about Jing.
Jing, yeah. A 23-year-old master's student from China, currently doing an internship overseas.
And now unsure if he can even get back into the U.S. for the fall semester. He called the whole thing tiring, said he feels numb from all the changes.
And he even wondered aloud if maybe this was just some kind of negotiating tactic in a bigger game.
Which is understandable, given the circumstances.
Yeah.
And the report mentions he used his family name only, worried about potential backlash.
Yeah, that fear of retaliation is real. It shows these aren't just, abstract policy debates. They hit people hard, personally.
Definitely. Okay, so let's look at the administration's side. This proclamation, you said it wasn't totally out of the blue.
No, the sources trace a sequence of events leading up to it. It suggests, a persistent focus on Harvard. Before this proclamation, the DHS secretary, Kristi Noem, had actually revoked Harvard's certification to host foreign students. That was back on May 22nd.
Right, I remember reading that.
Yeah.
But that didn't stick, did it?
Not for long. The very next day, May 23rd, a federal judge, Judge Allison Burroughs, stepped in. She immediately blocked that DHS action with a temporary order.
Okay.
And then just the week before the president issued his proclamation, Judge Burroughs ordered the administration not to mess with Harvard's international student visa program indefinitely.
So the court blocked DHS, and then the president issues this proclamation on, Wednesday, June 4th. Was that seen as a way to, get around the judge?
That's exactly how Harvard and many others interpreted it. A direct move from the president's office using a different authority.
So what did the proclamation actually do?
It barred new international students from entering the U.S. if their specific purpose was studying at Harvard. The legal basis cited was a federal law letting the president block a class of aliens considered harmful to national
Well,
interests.
class aliens.
It was set for 6 months initially, potentially extendable. And importantly, it also told the Secretary of State to consider revoking visas for current Harvard students who fit the criteria.
Wow, okay. So what were the official reasons given for targeting Harvard like this? According to the sources, what did the administration claim?
Well, the main justification stated was national security concerns. They deemed allowing these students entry to Harvard detrimental to U.S. interests.
Detrimental, strong word.
Yeah, right. And a White House spokesperson used even stronger language, quoted calling Harvard a hotbed of anti-American, anti-Semitic, pro-terrorist agitators.
Hotbed of agitators. That's
Okay.
quite a statement. What else?
They also claimed Harvard's actions had jeopardized the integrity of the entire U.S. student and exchange visitor visa system. They accused Harvard of failing to give DHS enough information about, quote, foreign students' known illegal or dangerous activities.
Specific claims there.
Yeah, they said the university reported deficient data on only 3 students. There were also accusations about foreign ties.
Related to other countries.
Yes, the sources mention accusations of extensive entanglements with foreign adversaries, pointing specifically to China, and they claimed a drastic rise in crime on campus and a failure to discipline conduct violations.
Okay, a whole list of grievances.
And then finally, they hit on anti-Semitism, accusing Harvard of failing to address it, and also of persistently prioritizing DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, which the president has openly called illegal and immoral discrimination.
Right. And just to be clear, we're laying out the administration's stated reasons as reported in our sources.
Absolutely. That's crucial. These are the justifications presented for the action.
Got it. So the president issues this proclamation with all those justifications. How did Harvard hit back?
Incredibly fast. The very next day, Thursday, June 5th, Harvard filed an amended lawsuit. They basically went back to Judge Burroughs and asked her to challenge this new proclamation on an emergency basis. Like, Judge, you need to stop this right now.
Okay, an emergency request. What were their main arguments against this presidential ban?
Their core argument was that this was illegal retaliation, pure and simple. They said it was payback because the university refused previous White House demands about its governance, its curriculum, its ideology.
So basically, political pressure that they resisted.
That's what they argued. They called the proclamation a patent effort to do an end run around Judge Burroughs' earlier order blocking DHS.
So, like we suspected, trying a different door to get the same result.
Exactly. Harvard also argued it violates the First Amendment, academic freedom. They called it a government vendetta against Harvard. Straight up.
A vendetta. Strong language from them, too.
And they made a key legal point about that class of aliens justification the administration used.
Right. What was their take on that?
They argued that since the ban only applies if a student is coming specifically to Harvard, it's not really targeting a broad class of people like the law intended. It's targeting an institution, retaliation, not national security policy in their view.
That's a really interesting legal distinction. And they talked about the impact, too, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely. They stressed the disruption, said, the proclamation denies thousands of Harvard students the right to come to this country, and it denies Harvard the right to teach them.
Huge impact.
And they put it very bluntly in the filing. Without its international students, Harvard is not Harvard. They also pushed back hard, saying the administration's claims about national security and all that were just unsubstantiated.
And didn't Harvard's president, Alan Garber, also weigh in?
Yes, he sent a message to the Harvard community, called the proclamation yet another illegal step taken by the administration to retaliate against Harvard. He promised the university would support and defend its international students, highlighting their, quote, outstanding contributions.
Okay, so Harvard files this emergency request on Thursday. Things were moving at lightning speed then. What happened next?
This is where it gets really dramatic. Just hours, literally hours after Harvard filed that amended suit on Thursday evening, Judge Allison Burroughs acted again.
She issued another order.
Yes, this time a temporary restraining order, a TRO.
And what did the TRO do? Did it block the president's proclamation?
Yes. Specifically, it blocked the part of the proclamation banning new international students from attending Harvard.
Why? What was her reasoning for acting so fast?
She stated that Harvard had shown it will sustain immediate and irreparable injury if the ban went into effect right away before everyone could argue it out fully in court.
Immediate and irreparable injury.
Yeah.
Okay, so for the moment at least, that specific ban on new Harvard international students is paused.
That's right. The TRO holds things in place until the court says otherwise. Judge Burroughs set a hearing for mid-June to hear the full arguments on whether to block the proclamation, potentially indefinitely.
So, a temporary reprieve, but the fight's clearly not over.
Not by a long shot. The specific presidential action was stopped almost as soon as it started, but the underlying legal and political battle is very much alive.
Okay, now here's where it gets, I think, really interesting. Let's zoom out a bit from just this rapid-fire legal stuff. As the sources point out, this isn't happening in a vacuum, right? This focus on Harvard's international students seems part of something bigger.
Absolutely. The reporting frames it as a multi-front attack by the administration, specifically against Harvard.
Multi-front. What else has been going on?
Well, besides the visa issues, reports mention the administration freezing billions in federal grants to Harvard, even threatening its tax-exempt status, so pressure from multiple angles.
Wow. Billions in grants. That's significant.
And it goes beyond just Harvard, too. It's seen as part of a wider trend, increased scrutiny and pressure on universities across the U.S. generally.
And this intense focus on student visas, we've seen that elsewhere, too, even before this latest Harvard drama, right? Temporary visa revocations and things like that.
Exactly. It's not entirely new territory, and there's been a particular focus sometimes on students from certain countries. Like, the reports mention Secretary of State Marco Rubio previously announcing the U.S. would be aggressively revoking visas for students from China.
You have to think about what all this does to students planning to study here. The uncertainty must be huge.
It creates a massive chilling effect. Mike Henniger, he advises universities on recruiting international students. He's quoted saying interest in studying in the U.S. has just basically dropped to nil.
Dropped to nil. Wow.
Yeah, the constant rule changes, the risk of getting caught in a political fight, it makes students and families really hesitant.
There was one detail in the reporting that really jumped out at me. It was about a State Department cable that went out after the judge's previous ruling favoring Harvard, even before this latest proclamation.
Ah, yes, that cable. It's pretty revealing. It apparently told U.S. consulates everywhere to ramp up the scrutiny for all Harvard visa applicants, not just students, but faculty, visitors, everyone.
Increased scrutiny. Okay, but what kind?
Well, here's the part that caught attention. It asked for a complete screening of the online presence. Social media, everything.
Okay.
And get this, it suggested that applicants who didn't have social media or had private accounts could be seen as trying to hide something evasiveness and could potentially be denied a visa for that reason.
Wow. So you could be penalized for privacy or just not being online. That's a major shift.
Significant detail, yeah. Raises a lot of questions.
So given how fast everything changes, court orders, proclamations, cables,
Yeah.
what are advisors telling students and families caught in this?
Well, Craig Riggs, another person working in international education, his advice basically is talk to experienced advisors, get good counsel, and maybe counterintuitively try not to freak out over every single daily headline.
Easier said than done, I imagine.
For sure. But his point is the rules are changing incredibly fast, sometimes hour by hour, so reacting to one piece of news might be premature. Better to get advice on the most current overall status.
Makes sense. So when you tie all these threads together, the legal fight, the specific claims against Harvard, the wider pressure on universities, the visa scrutiny, this chilling effect,
Yeah.
what's the bigger picture here? What does it all mean?
I mean, if you connect those dots, this isn't just a simple fight between one administration and one university, right? It really throws into sharp relief this complex mix of things. National security arguments, immigration policy, fundamental ideas about academic freedom, and just how unpredictable international relations can be.
Yeah.
Especially how political tensions can directly slam into educational exchange, affecting real people's lives. It just underscores how fast the ground can shift based on high-level political decisions.
And that brings us right back to where we started, with students like Jonas and Jing. Even though the judge stepped in again and blocked this latest ban, for now, that fundamental uncertainty, it's still there for them.
Absolutely. Their dreams, their plans, everything they worked for, it's all still kind of hanging in the balance, affected by forces way outside their control.
It's such a clear example of how vulnerable you can be when your life plans involve crossing borders in today's world.
A really powerful illustration, yeah. The fragility of it all.
So this whole situation really highlights that complex dance between national policy, education, and the sheer unpredictability of international life right now. It makes you wonder, what stands out to you about how quickly politics can change everything? And what does that mean for anyone, really, planning big life steps that involve moving between countries today?